Right. Today you are welcome to our lesson, and my name is Ebenezer, and I'll be the one to lead you through this particular lesson. We are going to talk about how to analyze a writing tax 1 question. That's when you are given a graph or a picture that you need to write or report on. How do you understand the entire information given to you, and how do you put all the relevant information together in order to start your essay properly? One thing you should know is that whenever you are given a question to write about, you have to plan on it properly before you start. And before you start writing, the first thing you need to do is to assess, look at the question, understand it properly before you start writing. So before you start to write your report, there is a need to first assess the graph and the question asked so that you can get a total understanding of the graph. And that is what we call analyzing. So analyzing a graph is the first step to approach when you are writing any report. So in this particular lesson, I will teach you how to analyze and assess any question type in the writing tax 1 in order to understand it. All right. So let's first look at why it's important for you to analyze. So one of the most important steps that students mostly undermine before writing or planning is to first take a critical look at the report before they start to write. So they mostly undermine taking a critical look at the report question to know what exactly to write about, right? So when you have a very good understanding of the question through proper analysis, it will help differentiate you between a band 6 person. So if you want to get a band 7, or if you want to get a band 7 and not a band 6, then you have to get a very good understanding of the question through proper analysis. One thing is that students often find it difficult, or better put, time wasting, to check the graph question, the features in the graph, and other important keys around them before they start to write. They prefer to just get their head into the question and start to write immediately. This is why most candidates often lose marks for missing key features and requirements from the task. No, the purpose of the exam is not just to cram what you have studied and provided on the very day, but is for you to know how to check situations properly and to understand it before you act. Okay, so the examiners need to realize that you have understood the question and that you have written exactly what you are asked. So because of how crucial the analysis is, I will take my time to guide you through all the 7 types of questions and how you can properly analyze without missing any part of the question asked. So as studied from our previous lessons, we realize that all the writing tax 1 questions have similar format, such that they are broken down into 3 parts. Okay, so we realize that the first part of the question talks about the statement information that you are to write about. This one will be different depending on the question. So we stated that the first part will be just the question that you need to know and what the graph will be about. Now, in the second part of the question will be the tax information, which is the sentence which will tell the writer what to do. Thus, you are supposed to summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. It also states the minimum number of words that you need to complete the essay. That's at least 150 words. So don't forget that. Now, in the last section of the tax 1 question, you'll find the graphic, which is actually the picture, where it will be shown for you to know exactly what you are going to deal with. This framework or this question question format is the same for every type of writing tax 1 academic test. So that's what you need to know about. Now let's look at how we can analyze each question tax when given to us. How do we analyze the question? How do we get the full information and understand the information given to us? So let's look at how to analyze the question. It is important to read and understand all parts of the question to prevent any deviation and also help you to stay on track to meet the tax achievement. So if you want to actually examine the details of any kind of graph, the first thing you need to do is to read the question itself and identify the type of graphic that you are looking at. So is it a table, is it a pie chart? You need to read the question and also examine or identify the type of graph. Now after doing that, the next thing to do is to read the title on the graph. You read the title on the graph. So some of the questions will come and then there will be a title on it. Okay, aside the question, you'll find a title on the graphic itself. So you have to read that title and also know what exactly it means. The reason you have to read the title is that sometimes the title clarify. It gives you a clear description of what you are going to examine. It even gives you a further way to paraphrase your question. And aside that, you also have to read the keys. Read the keys of the graphic to know what the variables are being compared. So each key will be used in corresponding to one particular information or data. So you have to know that this particular key is for this. Okay, so maybe red is for women and blue is for men. Okay, so you have to know the keys and know what kind of variables you are comparing. Now this one is quite peculiar to those line graphs and also table and x and y axis. Okay, so you have to read the information on the x and y axis if it is a line or bar graph, and also read the information on the rows and columns if it's a table. So you have to also know all these things before you start. So you have to look at all these kind of parts and then have it on hand. You have to understand them before you start to write. So to help you to focus your thought on the question, for you to focus your thought on the question itself, to know what exactly the question is about and to examine the question itself, you need to ask some set of questions. All right, so for you to focus your thought on the question and to properly paraphrase it in your own words, you need to ask yourself some questions like, what is this graph about? Okay, so what is this graph talking about? Now you have known that it's a bar graph, but what is the bar graph talking about? You need to know what it is, and who are the players or the variables being compared in this particular graph. You need to know who those players are, or what is being compared. Okay, those variables that are being compared, you need to know that. Then you also have to know when the statement took place or when this particular information took place. So you need to know the timing that this particular thing took place and where. Okay, so where did it happen, when did it happen, at where did it happen, when did it happen, what is the graph talking about, and who are those involved. So all these things you need to get it before you can properly paraphrase and understand the question, right? So these simple questions are very necessary as they will direct you to specific part of the graph. It will also reduce your rate of missing salient information about the question, both in the question and also in the graphics. So let's practice what we have studied with practical examples. Okay, so let's use these questions and the other things to also look at how we can practice it and analyze our question. So this will be our first question type, and this is an example. There's a bar chart, and we have the bar chart showing that it states that the chart below shows the number of households in the US by their annual income in 2007, 2011, 2015, and that we are supposed to summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. As we know, we are supposed to write not less than 150 words for this particular lesson. And we have the graph here. It is the graphic here that we need to assess. So we are going to analyze this question, look at it properly, and then find out using the questions that we practiced. All right, so we are going to use the same question to analyze this one. So we are going to analyze this bar chart by using these questions. Okay, we are going to use these questions that we have studied to analyze the question. So first of all, we are going to ask ourselves, what type of graphic are we looking at? Okay, so what type of graph are we looking at? Secondly, what is the title on the graph? If there is any, we have to look at it. If there is any title on the graph, what is the whole question talking about, or what is the whole graph talking about? Who are those involved, right? What are the players in this particular graph, and when, at what time did this information take place? Okay, when did they take this particular information, and when did they take this particular information, and at what time is this information involved? Okay, so we need to look at that. And also, where did they get this source from? Okay, what is the place, which place are they talking about in this particular essay? So this will be the set of questions that we'll be using to analyze and focus our mind on the graph. And aside that, we would also look at other things that are very important when we are analyzing the question. So let's answer these questions one after the other. So our first question is, what type of graphic or what type of picture are we looking at? And we know that the answer is bar graph. We know that this graph is a bar graph. So I'll just write it down, bar graph. Remember, this is an analysis that you are doing. You are just analyzing the question. And all these things, you don't have to write it down on the paper. You have to practice it now, and as time goes on, you get used to it. You don't even have to write it down, so you know the things that you have to check. So this is like a checklist for you to analyze your question. So first of all, what graph is this? This is a bar graph. And the second thing is, what is the title on the graphic? So not the question, the graph itself. If you look at the picture, you can see that there is a title here, right? There is another thing, something like this written here. So we have to look at the title and write the title down and analyze the title too as well. So in reference to the title, we know it's talking about the number of US households in millions by annual income. Okay, so the number of US households in millions by annual income. So you can see on the title, or in the title, we have been able to find out the unit of measurement. All right, so we know that these are in millions. So if you take 5, this is 5 million number of households, 10 million number of households, 50 million. So if you don't check the title, if you don't analyze the title, you will not be able to find all this information just in the question. So that's why it's important for you to also check the title as well. So we ask ourselves, what is this graph about? What is the whole thing about this particular graph? So we know that this question is about US households and their yearly income. Okay, so if you check here, you find out that the keys, right? So we have those who earn $25,000, less than $25,000 in one category, 25 to 49 in one category. So you can see that they have divided the household according to their annual income. So we know that this particular graph is about the US household, different household as per their annual income. So if you don't analyze it properly like this, you'll not be able to know exactly what it is about. So now that we know that this question is about the US household and the yearly income, then who are those involved? Who are those involved? Simply the US household. Okay, so we know that these different household family that are involved in this particular survey. So we are just looking at the household. So those are the players that are involved. Okay, at what time was this particular information taken, or what time, okay, what span of time it is covering? So you can see from here, it's saying that it is covering in 2007, 2011, and 2015. So we are checking their annual income 2007, 2011, and 2015. So this becomes the when. Okay, so this becomes the when, right? So we know that it's about the US households, and also the time is, we are just taking the survey in 2007, 2011, and 2015. All right, and finally where. Okay, so basically the place. So we know we are taking it in the US. Okay, so that is exactly what it will be. So the United States of America. So that's where the survey took place. So this is how you go about with the analysis. So let's try to look through. You find how simple the thing is. We know that this graph is a bar graph, which is having a title showing the number of US households in millions. Okay, so we have the households in millions by annual income, and we know that the question is about the US household, which has been categorized per their annual income. And also we know it's basically in 2007, 2011, 2015. These are the 3 years that are being compared, and it's compared in US. Okay, so we have all these, and it has given us a fair idea of what the whole graph is about. Now, after looking at this, since it's a bar chart, there are other things that you should also analyze, especially when it comes to bar charts. Okay, there are several things that you can analyze. First of all, you have to check the keys. So you can see we have this key, we have something like a black here, we have white, we have the shade of black. You can see the shade right here. So you have to look at all these codes and understand each one of them, and you find out that it's here, right? So you can see the very white is 25k to 49,999. That is the group. The black is for those who, very black is for those who earn less than 25,000, and also the grays, we are the 50. So you have to look at the color code and match it appropriately, so that you don't deviate, so that you don't give a wrong information. So you have to look at that. Aside that, you also have to check the vertical and then the horizontal axis information on it. So if you look at this side, it's talking about the number of households per million. So it tells you here that this is not just 5, talking about 5 million. This is not just 10, talking about 10 million, right? So you know the units here is in millions. Okay, so you have units here in millions per million. All right, per million people, per million people. Okay, per million household, actually per million household. You have to know that the unit measurement here is per million household. And if you check the horizontal axis, this one covers the year. So this group alone is the 2007 year, this group alone is the 2011 year, and this one is the 2015. So all these should also be checked, so that you can have a very wholesome information when it comes to the question. So just don't forget the question that you use, the type of graph, the title of the graph, what, who, when, and where. All right, let's look at another chart using the same question types. We have a line graph here, what is showing the average monthly change in the prices of 3 metals during 2014. So it tells us to summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. So we've been able to get this question, and we are going to analyze using our questions, the questions that we have been using. So we ask ourselves, what type of graph is it? And we know that this is a line graph. Okay, basically it is a line graph. So we've answered that question. And what is the title of the graph, or the title on the graph? We already know the question, all right, but we want to know the title if there is any on the graph. And we've seen that the title on the graph states that the average monthly change in prices. So the average monthly change in the prices of copper, nickel, and zinc. So per month, what are the changes in prices that happens in these three metals mentioned? So what is the basic thing? What is the major idea or information in this graph? You know that the question is talking about the changes in prices of three different metals. So we know that this is what the question is talking about. And who are those involved? Well, what is involved? We know that this contains three metals. We are comparing three metals, and these metals are the nickel, the copper, and zinc. At what time or in what time frame is this information taken? We are taking the information where? Let's look at it. We can say that it's from January to December. If you look at the graph itself, it tells you that the graph below shows the average monthly change in the price of three metals during 2014. So you can see, somebody might say 2014 for the time being, but it's not just talking about that particular year. Okay, it's not just talking about the 2014, but the entire month. So from the first month to the last month of that particular year. Okay, so we took the information from January here to December in 2014. Okay, so from January to December 2014, and this can only be achieved when you analyze the question. So where is this information, or where was this information taken? The information was taken, but they didn't specify any place. You can see from here showing the average monthly changes in prices. No place was mentioned. We can look at this side and that side, but they did not mention any place. So you can see I stated here no place was mentioned. So if you are analyzing this particular place, this particular one can just go out, and you only have a line graph which is showing the average monthly changes in prices of copper, nickel, and zinc in 2014 from January to December. Okay, so that is the entire information about this particular graph. Let's move on to the next one, and thereafter I'll give you an exercise for you to do. So before I go on to the next type, I would like to also emphasize on this. With the line graph, aside knowing there are several other important things that you should also note. First of all is the information on the vertical and then the horizontal line. So if you take the vertical, it talks about the percentage change in price compared with previous month. Okay, percentage in price compared to previous month. So if it's in February, if we have it up to 4%, that means that it has changed. Okay, it has reduced from 6% to 4% as compared to the previous month. Okay, so there have been a 4% change in price. All right, a 4% change in price as compared to that of January. That is for this particular line. Okay, so this information here will tell us what it means. Secondly, we can see that we have the unit of measurement, which shows percentage. So you should also look at the unit of measurement too as well, because this one talks about average. All right, so average, but this specifies and tells us that this is percentage. So it tells us about the percentage change. So it means that all these are percents. right? 7%, 6%, 5%, 4%. So you know the unit of measurement you are dealing with. We know that this one talks about the month, the whole month from January to December. So you can have J, F, M, right? All of them talking about from January to December. So you have to also note the keys on the vertical and horizontal axis, the information on there. You have to read and understand. Aside that, you have to look at the keys in the box. You can see that here we have some signs showing what it is. So if you see this particular line, this is copper, and that is for this part. All right, you have nickel, which is the deep one. So then we have zinc. All right, and zinc is the one in the middle, right, which is going on that way. So this one also tell you, or this key will also tell you which of the data it corresponds to. So you have to also assess all these to understand. Now let's go on to our last type. We are going to use the same question, and then after I'll give you an exercise for you to do the rest of them. All right, we have this map, so let's analyze the map using our question. State the diagram below shows the floor plan of a public library 20 years ago and how it looks now. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make a comparison where relevant. So we know that the type of graph is a map. All right, so we have two maps there, and we know that the title of the graph, we have the first one to be the Central Library 20 years ago and Central Library today. So Central Library 20 years ago and Central Library today or now. What is the whole issue, or what is the question about? It's about the floor plan of a public library 20 years ago and now, and also who is the player involved, or what is the thing involved. It's about the two different floor plans. Those are the two things involved here. We have the two different floor plans. That is what we are dealing with here. And at what time? We know that no definite time was actually mentioned, like maybe 2023 or what, but it was stated that it's between 20 years ago and now. So the now is just like today, okay? So we don't know when the now is, but we know that we're just talking about today and also 20 years ago, right? So no definite date was mentioned, but it's between 20 years past and now. And also where? The Central Library, right? So this data was taken from the Central Library. We do not have any definite place like a town or a country was not mentioned, nothing was mentioned, but we know it's about it was taken from a Central Library. All right, so this is how you analyze the question. When you are dealing with a map, there are other things you can also look at. You have to look at like the cardinal areas in the graph, like the CD videos, camera, CD videos, computer games, children's book. You have to look at these key areas and also look at what is here. But at least when you get into the overview and the main detail, you're able to fish all this out. But this is what you need to also look at when you are dealing with map. And also, because you are dealing with map, you will be talking about directional words, okay, like north, south, east, west. So you also have to get those things in mind. All right, the northern side, the western side, the northwest side, all these things need to also be taken into consideration. All right, so this is how you analyze the question. I'm going to give you an exercise now where I will display the question and then I will leave the gaps in between, and I would like you to write your answers on the analysis. All right, so we are going to start now. So this is a pie chart question. This is your first exercise. So this is a pie chart question. What you do is that you have to read the question and write your answers using this one. So you have to state the type of graph you are looking at, the title of the graph, what the graph is about, what are those involved, or what is the variables involved, when was it taken, at what time and where. in what place in case it is given. One thing you should note about pie chart is that there are several things you can also look at, like the keys. Okay, you have to also look at the keys, and also you have to look at the unit of measurement. Okay, so in this one is percentage, so you have to also look at that. But aside that, I want you to answer this question for me. You can pause the video and then answer the questions. Let's move on to our next question. The next question is a table question. All right, so you have the table, two tables here, first one and second one. Okay, so you have to also look at it, read the question, and then you'll be able to answer these ones. So you have to also state the type of graph you're looking at, the title of the graph, what is it about, who are those involved, when was this information taken, and at where. All right, so what is where, so the place that is involved. And also one thing you should note about table is that when you are dealing with tables, you have to not forget the information on the horizontal plane, which is the rows. Okay, so you have to look at on top of the row what is here, you have to look at it, and also you have to look at this side, which is the column. You have to look at the column and also check what is the information here. So you can see here we have the coffee, right? The coffee in 1999, the millions of euros, and also you have 2004 millions of euros. So if you read it, you understand the question and why they are putting that particular money amount there. So you note that. So this is about coffee, and this is banana. So banana, millions of euros in 1999 and that of 2004. And if you read the vertical side, I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 different countries. Okay, so you have 5 different countries here. So the vertical part is also talking about the countries, and this horizontal part is talking about the snack, or the snack, and also the years and amount of money, which if you read, you know why they have put that amount of money there. So this is what you also have to note when you are extracting, that you also have to note when you are dealing with tables, which is the rows and columns, and also the unit of measurement is very, very important. You have to get the information on those that. Okay, aside that, I want you to answer this question. Tell me the type of graph, the title, what you are looking at, who is involved, when and where. You can pause the video and then answer the questions. This is a multiple chat. All right, so you do the same thing to it, answer the question, and then just write your answers and then let me know. And you can see there's a combination of 2 different charts, so you can use the information, extra information, like the table. You have to get the rows and column information, right? And when it comes to the pie chart, you need to also understand the unit of measurement and everything. So these are extra information too that you can get. But I believe if you understand all the 4 question types, which is the table, the pie chart, the line graph, the bar graph, and all the other extra information I asked you, then you can just combine them to it, and that will be all. So just get the answers for this one and let's go. The last question type is the process diagram question. So we have a process diagram here. Okay, so what I need from you is to read the question and then use these checklists to also write down what the answer will be. So just write your answers there, and remember, analyzing a question is for you to just get the general information concerning the question. Okay, so that's what you should know. When you are dealing with process diagram, some of the extra information that you need to know is the number of steps. Okay, you have to look at the number of steps that you are taking. You can see from here you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So you have to look at the number of steps, and also the stages also have to be assessed, but we will look at that when we are going on through the overview of the test. Okay, so this is what we need to know about the process diagram. And I want you to write your answers. Tell me the type of graph, the title of the graph, in case there is any. What is the graph talking about? Who are those involved? When and where? So you have to answer all that question. All right. I believe you have got a general information or a deep understanding of what the whole analysis is about. I would like to get your answers later, but before I go, I would like you to also go over this particular lesson. It's a long lesson, so I'd like you to go over it and have an idea of it. And after that, we will meet in another lesson. Bye.